Silky, creamy hummus. Lovely people, I'm going to show you the 2 secrets to making the best hummus of your life. These are not the so-called tricks you've heard elsewhere. We're not adding ice cubes or patting it out with vegetable oil. No way. Okay, you're going to need 1 cup of tahini, 1 cup of fresh lemon juice, that's 5 to 6 whole lemons, 1 head of garlic, 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, baking soda, and 1 16-ounce bag of dried chickpeas or garbanzo beans. They're the same thing. Yes, my friends, dried chickpeas. The difference in taste and texture between canned and dried is night and day. Pre-cooked canned beans are bland, even tinny tasting, and they haven't been cooked to the softness that you need. This is key. If you want silky smooth hummus, you have to cook your chickpeas until they turn to mush when you press one between your fingers. Okay, in a pinch, you can take canned beans and cook them in water until they reach the right consistency. This will help, but you'll never get rich, nutty chickpea flavor. So please, use dried beans if you can for a full-bodied hummus. Now, here's my first insider secret that no one talks about, and it comes straight from the farm. If you ever see this kind of chickpea, buy it. This is a much tinier chickpea than most. It's got a smooth skin and a little pointy beak. This is called a Pedrosiano. It's a type of chickpea that comes from Spain, but is now grown here in the US in the Pacific Northwest. I first learned about this variety when I did my chickpea episode of How Does It Grow? It's the preferred variety for big hummus makers like Sabra. Because even though it's tiny when dried, when it's hydrated, it plumps up big. And more importantly, it's an especially creamy variety, full of flavor. That's why the hummus companies love it. Now, I know it's hard to find specific varieties of chickpeas, but let me tell you, I was in my local Acme the other day, and trust me, this video is not sponsored by Acme. Anyway, I bought a bag of their in-house organic brand. I got home, opened the package up, and discovered it was Pedrosiano. Again, you can tell because they're much smaller than your average chickpea. I swear, I went back and bought 6 more packages just to have them on hand. They're that good. Okay, so we start by soaking our dried chickpeas for at least a couple hours, but preferably overnight. Just pour the chickpeas in a large pot, add a teaspoon of baking soda, and fill it up with water. The baking soda is a must. It helps break down the cell walls of the chickpeas and pre-softens their skins. Cover the pot and leave the chickpeas to soak overnight. So the next day, you're going to cook your chickpeas. You can use the same water, which is what I do, but if you have digestive issues or you find that beans don't play nice with you, then you should dump out the soaking liquid and fill the pot with fresh water and another teaspoon of baking soda. That's because some of the compounds in chickpeas that upset sensitive stomachs come out in the soaking water. So if you're sensitive, cook the chickpeas in fresh water. If that's not a problem for you, then do what I do. Just cook the chickpeas in the same water. In that case, you do not need to add the additional baking soda. Bring the pot to a boil and skim off most of that foam that rises to the top. Then lower the temperature to a simmer and partially cover. You're going to cook the chickpeas for about 2 hours on low heat. Remember, one of the secrets to ultra creamy hummus is to cook your chickpeas within an inch of their lives. 2 hours might sound like a lot of time, but there's nothing you really have to do. Just give the pot a stir from time to time, check that the water is still simmering, and let them do their thing. Now, you'll find a lot of hummus recipes that call for picking out the chickpea skins. Mamma mia, no way! Nobody has time for that. The genius of this recipe is that you're essentially overcooking the chickpeas so that even the skins disintegrate. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to skins getting in the way of creaminess. When your chickpeas are super soft, drain them from the pot. We won't need any of that cooking liquid for the hummus, but feel free to keep it for a future soup or something. Now, here's my second secret you won't hear anywhere else. If you have the time, I recommend cooling your chickpeas in the fridge before you make them into hummus. I know this is going to be a contentious issue. Lots of people swear by warm or even hot chickpeas going into the food processor, but that's only necessary if you haven't cooked your chickpeas long enough. Once they're super soft, there's nothing standing in the way to creaminess. And let me tell you, in terms of experimentation, I have made this recipe countless times over the years with warm, hot, and cold chickpeas. And by far, the cold chickpeas make the silkiest hummus. So our chickpeas are cooling. We're going to make what is essentially a tahini sauce that will add to the food processor with the chickpeas. This is made with just 3 ingredients: fresh lemon juice, garlic, and tahini paste, plus our seasonings, salt and cumin. Notice what's not in this recipe. Vegetable oil. When you see oil in a hummus recipe, they're using it to make the hummus artificially creamy. But when you make hummus the right way, you don't need to pad it out with oil, because hummus made with tahini has all the natural oils it needs. Tahini is simply ground sesame seeds, a runny, nut-like butter made from sesame. It's rich and silky with a pleasantly bitter edge. So we start making our tahini sauce by squeezing our lemon juice. Depending on the size of your lemons and how juicy they are, you'll need 5 or 6 to make 1 cup of lemon juice. Don't worry about fishing out the seeds or pulp. We'll sieve them out later. Now the garlic. Yes, we are going to use 1 whole head of garlic, but none of the garlic solids are actually going into our hummus. Let me explain. Lots of recipes call for chopped up garlic, but even tiny pieces of raw garlic interfere with that creamy texture we're after. It also decreases shelf life and adds unnecessary bitterness. So instead, we're going to blend up our garlic with the lemon juice and let the mixture sit for 20 to 30 minutes to let the garlic infuse the lemon juice. And then we're going to pass it all through a sieve. Now I love that we don't have to fuss with peeling the garlic. I just wash the whole thing to start. Any of the papery skin that comes loose, you can discard. Blend it up until the garlic is in little bits, and set it aside to infuse for 20 to 30 minutes. When that's ready, pour 1 cup of tahini into a bowl. Then add the garlicky lemon juice by passing it through a sieve. You want to press on the solids with a spoon to make sure you're getting every last drop of lemon juice. Then 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. And you whisk. The mixture should come together like a smooth gravy. But some tahini pastes are thicker than others, so if you find that your sauce is clumpy or drier than mine, just add lemon juice or water a tablespoon at a time until you get that silky consistency. Now it's finally time to bring it all together. Into a food processor, add your chickpeas and pour in the tahini sauce. You're going to blend for 2 minutes, stir down, and then blend for 2 minutes more. Taste it to see if you need to add a touch more salt. Look at that silky consistency. We didn't have to add any oil, we didn't have to add ice cubes to aerate the hummus. This is just pure, simple ingredients. To serve, you're going to want to make a nice divot in the middle with a spoon. Really good extra virgin olive oil is the perfect condiment for hummus. I've got a link to some of my favorites below. Did you know that you can freeze hummus? This recipe makes a huge batch, so go ahead and put half in the freezer for another day. So remember, dried chickpeas every time. And if you want to see where most chickpeas grow in America, check out my How Does It Grow episode and watch me follow the beans from seed to harvest. I even get to drive my first combine.